Afternoon and welcome to the March safety store topic, home alone safety. This is an important topic for this month, especially with many schools starting spring break, but this is also an important topic to consider and think about all year round. So let's get into this month's topic of home alone safety. So, as children grow and become more independent and mature, many parents, particularly those with jobs or other responsibilities, are faced with the same dilemma. At what age can a child be legally allowed to stay home alone? So, there's a lot of interesting information and facts about this. The laws do vary from state to state, and some have no age restriction. Indiana does not have a specific age in which children can be left alone. However, it is important for parents and caregivers to know some important safety tips, and we're going to go through those today. So, for example, for under federal law and depending on the laws and child protective policies in our state, leaving a young child unsupervised may be considered neglect, especially if doing so places the child in danger. So, we always like to refer to our Kids Safe Worldwide. So, the Kids Safe Kids campaign, along with the Academy of Pediatrics, recommends not letting kiddos stay home alone until age 12. As I stated before, it does vary from state to state, and there's a lot of considerations we want to think about, but those are the recommended ages from those two groups. So one of the things we want to think about is, what is what is our comfort level and what is our child's comfort level? And do they want to stay home alone? Different kiddos have different feelings and thoughts and maybe maturity levels, right? So ask the child or have the adult ask the child, does the child want to be stay home alone? Although most parents think their child would jump at the chance, most are worried or even scared by the prospect of no adult being around to rely on. So we want to be, like I said, checking in on the kids' comfort level around this. So if they are worried at all or have concerns about this, we could have the adult ask some various prompts, talking about how long the parent plans to be gone, how the child can get in touch with them if they need them for any reason, what to do and how to safety plan around visitors coming. If there's an emergency, does the child know what to do in those situations? Unpacking a little bit deeper about the why behind the child's fears or uncertainties or worries, and just asking them to tell them, what else would make you feel more comfortable that we can maybe talk about and explore. So the key part, though, is that if a child does not show readiness, it's not a wise idea for a child to be left home alone, no matter how old the child is. The other crucial part of letting a child stay home alone is responsibility and maturity. It's a big deal for a child to be left unsupervised by a safe adult. And we need to have serious consideration for this. So some of the things we want, and often parents know their kiddos best, but some of the things and considerations they want to think about is, what is the child's level of common sense? Are they like making, sensible choices and things like that, even when the adults are home? Can the child make good judgments on their own? Do they have common sense? So if the milk smells bad, would the child make sure not to drink it? It's just simple things like that. Thinking about their interest. Can the child keep busy without watching TV, playing video games? Can they creatively spend their time doing reading, drawing, music, homework, playing with toys, things like that? Would our child remember to be able to follow important safety tips? Do they know what to do in case of a fire, a gas leak, another emergency? Can they follow the important rules that are left for them, such as not opening the door, not telling anyone that they are home alone, and not going, for example, social media, etc.? So, further to assess a child's responsibility, takes some further kind of questions and thoughts and considerations. And we need to really be honest and truthful with ourselves as parents if parents are making these considerations. So we want parents to think about, is my child a good rule follower? And without constant redirection or constant like reminding of these rules, do they make good decisions? And do they understand like the consequences of their decisions? Do they have good impulse control? An interesting fact, our human brain development, we don't really fully lock in and download impulse control until roughly between ages 9 to 11. So that's something to consider is impulse control. Can our child, problem solve and come up with solutions? If we were to leave them a routine, could they follow that routine and really stick to that level of responsibility, right? We're talking about here, maybe chores, things like that. Do they get tunnel vision? Do they kind of space out, or can they really just, like I said, make good decisions, be a good, responsible child while we're not there? And the maturity is a really important factor as well. It's all kind of layered and interconnected, right? So, is the child able to take care of themselves? That's why we need to really be thinking long and hard about, wait until they're kind of, middle school age for sure. Um, or can they make a peanut butter jelly sandwich? Do they have good sense of judgment? um, how do they usually react when there's an urgent situation? That fight, flight, freeze control. We all kind of know or kind of sense in ourselves and others how we typically react in those situations. You also need to make sure, the parent needs to make sure they've done some life skills training of the child. In this day and age, we like to think of chores and responsibilities around the home as life skills, right? Parents' jobs in many ways are to teach kiddos life skills so they can go on and be happy, competent adults. But we want to make sure kiddos have a good sense of life skills. So, and there's some questions that we're going to go through in just a minute that are kind of like take us through a quick snapshot of some of these life skills. Um, these are things you want to make sure you are teaching your that parents are teaching their kids, going over these skills as they prepare for that time that they can leave their child home alone. Do they know how to make snacks for themselves? They're inevitably going to get hungry. Do they understand and know what 911 is? Do they know their home address? Do they know their parents' cell phone numbers? Do they know basic first aid? For example, do they know where the band-aids are and what to do if they get cut or, have a scratch or something like that? Fire safety is really important as well. So hopefully we have fire extinguishers in our home, smoke detectors are working well. Um, do they know their parents' full entire names? I've met some kiddos, you know, 8 or 9 years old that still don't know these things. So we got to make sure that they're knowing these things. Do they know how to use the microwave? Or are we going to put rules and regulations around any kind of cooking, depending on the age, maturity, etc.? Are all the windows and doors locked? And do they know how to lock them, unlock them, etc.? And know what to do if someone comes to the door? A great way to prepare for Home Alone is to do a practice run, a very short little duration of this, just to kind of see what hiccups might come about that we can quickly remedy, kind of, potentially deal with. So even if we're confident about our child's maturity, we want to do some little mini short um, teaser, if you will, practice runs. So these are going to look for like 30 minutes or even shorter. This slide says an hour, why we're really close by and easily reachable. And then when the parent returns, they want to talk about how things went. Would the child notice that they might need, skills they might need or situations that might have came up and all those things. So inevitably, just like for adults, when children are home, they're going to deal with some unexpected things. So we want them to know what 911 is and how to get a hold of that number. They got to know what their home address is. And those might even be things they want to consider leaving home or leaving at home. We have these great take care cards from Prevent Child Abuse Indiana. We'll make sure that are in your safety stores that where someone could write all these different things down for either a babysitter or for an older child that's staying home alone. If they have a security system, do they know how to deal with that? And especially if alarm would accidentally go off, how the doors lock and unlock, how to work a cell phone. Cell phones, even if they don't have minutes, as long as they are powered on, they do have the capability of dialing 911. And then just doing some of that life skills, safety planning, if there's a power outage, tornado, severe weather, smoke alarm, all that good stuff. So emergency scenarios are very good to discuss and think about and just prepare for. The more confident the child is and feels if these things were to arise, that would be great. CPR, first aid classes, safe sitter, safe at home classes. I'll talk about more of those in a moment, but there's a lot of different classes and things like that in our communities that children can attend as well. So it's always good to be keeping in touch with kiddos in this day and age, especially, we don't have a lot of home phones, but if they have like if you are all Apple users, a child could still text with you and FaceTime with you on an iPad. If you're Droid users, I think the same thing works, or you can have the parent and child download Teams or Google Meets or something like that, so the child and the adult could check in with one another. Make sure the child understands when we're available, because sometimes parents will be working and things like that, so there'll be a specific like time that they might be available versus not. And then a couple extra safe people that the child could get in touch with if the parent were not available. Ground rules are so important. What can they not do and what can they do? It's like, explaining the rules to a game, right? We need to make sure that children have clear and understandable instructions and expectations of what they are to do and not to do while we're not with them or they're left home alone. So 9 times out of 10, we're going to say it's probably not smart to have friends over. We might decide that there are rooms that are just off limits, thinking about where they might be going online or watching on TV, things like that. Some parameters and rules around cooking, answering the phone. If they are going to be home with their siblings, laying out clear expectations about getting along with one another. Siblings do fight. They do sometimes have spats and things like that. So those are some things we want to do. Make sure there's plenty of things for the kiddos to eat, and there's emergency supplies, all those good things. Maybe have flashlights and things like that in case there is a power outage. And then leaving that list of important numbers. Childproof the home. That's a good thing for parents and adults to do too. So thinking of our poison control and things like that, we want to lock up any alcohol, any medications, any poisons. If we're tobacco users, we're going to put those away as well. Like I said before, kids can be impulsive, so we don't even want them to be able to have access to get into any cars. Kids are curious about fire, so lighters, matches, things like that. So guns, absolutely. All these things need to be locked up, put away, not accessible to the kids. So, like I said before, the child might be home with siblings and things like that. So we want to make sure that they are not going to have any fights, disagreements, arguments while they are home alone. What are the ages of these kiddos? Can they work collaboratively? I can't say the word, but without one of the children needing to take charge, or is the child that's the oldest, are they going to be responsible enough to really kind of be in that babysitter role without having, disagreements or big blow ups amongst the siblings? Do they have appropriate conflict resolution tools, things like that? So if sibling rivalry is a constant problem, it probably isn't a good idea to leave children that are siblings home alone for an extended period of time. So this is from Safe at Home. This is a sub-program of Safe Sitter. You may be familiar with Safe Sitter. It's a program that's been around for a really long time. It's several weeks long. It's a great training for a child that's ready to be like out in the world babysitting other kiddos. Safe Sitter is a great program. It can be cost prohibitive. There is a cost and fee to that. They have a shorter, quicker version, which still has a cost, called Safe at Home. We've been learning more about that. We want to figure out how to make that more readily accessible to children in our community, but Safe at Home is a fantastic program. So if you go to Safe Sitter's website, you can definitely find out more about Safe at Home. But safe habits, these are the things that they cover in Safe at Home. So indoor safety, outdoor safety, online safety, and personal safety. So great information there. Highly recommend you check out Safe at Home if you're interested in learning more. Always happy to answer questions that folks have about any of our safety topics. But let me quickly tell you about a few resources. So the Child Welfare Information Gateway has fact sheets for families leaving your children home. Healthy Children from the American Academy of Pediatrics has a great sheet called Is Your Child Ready to Stay Home Alone? Kids Health leaving your child home alone. American Red Cross, they have fantastic classes as well, just like Safe Sitter. Safety steps to follow if kids are home alone. They can teach like CPR, first aid, things like that. Prevent Child Abuse Indiana. We'll be sure these are in your safety store, but we have both Spanish and English, great brochure. It's in the shape of a house, all about home alone safety tips. And yeah, and we'll be sure to also share that information with you. If you have any questions about any of these things, we recommend you check out the bulletin board for more information and the weekly or and the monthly newsletter. And we will see you next month in April for our next safety topic. Thank you.